welcome to this session. In this session, we will be discussing about the topic sales forecasting. Now, as you all know, sales forecasting is a very important function for the sales organization. The importance of sales forecasting can hardly be overemphasized. For example, if the company does not have a sales forecast, what it means is that it does not have a plan for the selling action. Who would sell how much, in what territories, what kind of products, over what time frame, all these are brought out by the sales forecasting plan. Okay. So the sales forecast is one of the basic planning exercises carried out by the sales department in any organization. There are various methods by which sales is forecast by different companies. And in fact, the truth is this, that companies use different methods all at the same time, trying to arrive at the correct sales forecast. Because by any one method, it is not possible to arrive at a fairly realistic picture of what the sales forecast needs to be. Now, that is the importance of sales forecasting. Before we really go into a detailed discussion on sales forecasting, we need to understand what is a sales forecast. Okay. But I would even suggest that in order to understand a sales forecast, the first thing that you need to start with is what is a market potential. Now, a market potential, as many of you may be aware, is an estimation of how many units of a particular product can be sold to a given market over a given time frame. Now, when I say how many units of a product, I mean the products of all the companies who are trying to cater to the customers in that segment or in that category of products. All the available brands manufactured by different manufacturers and marketed by different companies which are trying to get sales from that same territory, from those same customers over that same period of time. So it is really the sum total of what all companies in that product category are capable of selling in a given period over a well-defined territory of customers. That is the market potential. That is the sum total of all possible sales possible in a given region in a given time. Is this clear to you? Then we go on to a discussion of what is a sales potential. From the market potential comes the sales potential. What is the sales potential? The sales potential is in fact the sum total of the units of a product or a product line that a particular company can sell in a given period of time to a set of given customers. Okay. It is the possibilities, maximum possible opportunities available to a particular company, mind you. It is no longer the sum of all the opportunities available to all the companies like the market potential. It is in fact the opportunity, the sum total of all the opportunities available to a single firm in the industry trying to sell to that territory and trying to sell in that period of time. That is the sales potential. So obviously you can understand that there's a gap between the market potential and the sales potential.
So I have a question. In market potential, do we include the non-branded local companies also?
Yes, of course.
Because they have a share of the market.
Obviously.
Also, the total sales.
It is when I say that the maximum possible units that can be sold to a particular market, it means all the people who are there in the organized sector as well as the unorganized sector. The total sum of opportunities available to both the organized and the unorganized sectors. I would even include products which can be used as substitutes for those products. They will also be a part of the market potential. Okay. But then the sales potential, as I explained, is different from that. It is the opportunity available to a single firm in the industry. Okay. Now from this we can now come to a discussion on what is a sales forecast. A sales forecast is therefore the opportunity available to a firm in a given period of time, in a given territory, given a particular marketing program, and by assuming a set of external factors which the company can realistically hope to achieve. Let me repeat myself. It is in fact the realistic opportunity available to a firm in the industry, given a particular marketing program, given a territory of customers, given a set of external factors like competition and other things, assuming that they would remain at a particular level, then what is it that the firm can expect to realistically sell to that set of customers in that period of time, assuming a certain marketing program of its own. That means assuming a certain level of price, assuming a certain level of promotion, assuming a certain level of distribution and a given product. So there is a difference between the sales potential and the sales forecast therefore. The sales potential is what is ideally possible and the sales forecast is what is realistically possible. So that is the gap between the sales potential and the sales forecast. So basically we have talked about three concepts here. One is the market potential, which is the sum total of all the opportunities available. Then we have talked about the sales potential, which is the opportunity available to a particular firm in the industry. And finally, we talk about a sales forecast, which is the opportunity available to a firm which the firm can actually encash on, okay, and really take advantage of, assuming a certain set of parameters like its own marketing program, like the external factors that it has to operate against. Okay, so that is a sales forecast. Now, having carried out this discussion, now it's time to talk about what are the different methods by which a company can really approach the subject of sales forecasting. Okay, as I said before that there are a number of methods available to a company which is trying to do its own sales forecasting. Now let's look at some of the simpler methods first. Okay, the first one that we would talk about is what is known as the jury of executive opinion. Okay, it's a jury, as you can understand. It's a collective exercise where there are a number of experts who are considered to have enough knowledge about the industry, who are considered to have a lot of experience behind them, who have seen the industry's ups and downs, who have got a lot of wisdom about the industry. Such people are formed into a jury. They may be insiders to the organization, they could also be outsiders. You can draw outside experts also in order to sit on that jury of executives, and you ask them to do a sales forecasting for the organization in question.
Sir, I have a question.
Yeah.
Sir, does they include people from all fields of work?
They
Or
may
only
include.
the
They may
marketing?
include people from different fields if you think that they have got the right kind of expertise to bring to this discussion or to bring to this forecasting exercise. Then you can always include people who are from different walks of life. Okay, but then one would say that because sales forecasting is a specialized exercise where one has to look at the market, one has to have enough experience, to back up his understanding of the market. That is the reason you will normally have sales people only, people who have vast years of experience in sales in different companies or maybe within the same company for an extended period of time. Such people are normally included in that jury of executives. What is done is these people are expected to use all their judgment, their expertise, and pool their judgment, as a matter of fact, and then come out with some kind of a forecast.
Sir, I
Yeah.
have a question. Do we need to select jury from the same industry? With
Ideally, yes, because you are talking about an industry within which a firm is operating. The firm has to have its forecast made against the backdrop of that industry. So people from that industry would ideally be preferred to be a part of that jury. Okay.
Not necessarily from the same firm.
They need not necessarily be from the same firm. You can always hire experts from other firms if you think that their opinions are reliable and they have the right expertise which can be relied on. Okay, so you can always have such people on the jury and crank out some kind of a forecast using their common expertise or their pool of judgment. So that is the basic principle behind a jury of executive opinion that is sought as a matter of sales forecasting. Now this, as you can understand, has got its own advantages, it has got its own weaknesses. So let's think of what are the advantages of such a method. The biggest advantage is this, that all these people are experts in their domain. They have seen the sales function from very close quarters and they have had vast experience in that area. So they can really see a way ahead of time, and they really can project their vision and come out with fairly good estimates of what the future holds for the firm, which is not possible for people with lesser amount of experience, lesser amount of understanding of the market to do. So you are really putting the toughest of exercises in the best of hands. So you would really expect that a good forecast is going to be the outcome of such an exercise. At the same time, one needs to say that there are weaknesses in this method. For example, it is based on people's speculation. It is not based on any hard facts and figures, as you can understand. People are only projecting into the future, and the forecast is only as good as their vision. Okay, if people do not have the right kind of vision, then the forecast is going to suffer from all kinds of problems. And the other thing is, when you have a number of experts on a panel, like a jury of executives, executives will differ in their opinion.
The chances of conflict will be more.
There will be enough chances of conflict, the views will be quite divergent, and it will be quite a laborious task to work out some kind of a consensus from such a jury which has got divergent views on the subject. Now, it would be expected that when executives on the jury are deliberating, they would really come to some kind of a consensus themselves and see to, appreciate each other's points of view, and that's what's going to help the firm in the long run to work out a realistic forecast.
And the best would emerge.
The best would emerge, but at the same time, you have to reckon with the fact that there can be a lot of divergent opinions, and how do you really, scale them down and bring down to a certain consensus, which is what the firm requires at the end of the exercise. So that is one of the major problems in an exercise of this kind. But then one would say that, can you imagine under what kind of situation this sort of an exercise would be quite appropriate?
So while launching a new product,
Yes, it can be true when you're launching a new product. It can also be true in a situation, for example, where the company does not have a lot of database to fall back on. As you mentioned, it's a new product. How much a new product will be accepted in the marketplace is something that there is no historical data to back up with. Therefore, you will have to rely on people's understanding of the market, people's projection into the marketplace. That is what is required.
So
When you
maybe
have no historical database, you rely on experts to see the future for you. Yeah.
So maybe rejuvenating a product which has been dying in.
Okay, yes, if you have such a situation where a product is
And
really.
maybe when the company is opening more branches in some other places,
Yeah.
then in a new
Yes.
place.
Yes.
how they would be flourishing in that case.
That's right. So if you are thinking of branching out,
Diversification
opening new
and
regions
like
or
that.
diversifying into areas which are, uncharted territory for the firm, then possibly you would hire experts to, give you an insight of what is in store in the future for them. And these are the circumstances in which you will really fall back on experts to give their opinion. And this can become a handy method of sales forecasting. And the other thing is it's quite quick. You see, it does not depend upon a very detailed exercise. And assuming that all that exercise is being done mentally by the experts themselves and they are giving you their considered opinion. So it's not a very time consuming exercise. It works out a forecast rather quickly and inexpensively, which is also one of the plus points of this method. Okay. So that is about the jury of executive opinion. Now let's take a short break at this point of time. We come back and discuss more of forecasting methods just after the break. Welcome back. We have been talking about sales forecasting. We had just finished talking about one of the methods, which is the jury of executive opinion. Now let us continue from there. And the next method that we talk about in sales forecasting is known as the Delphi technique. Maybe some of you have heard about the name of Delphi technique. It is a very popular method of sales forecasting in the industry. And it is in many ways very similar to what we have just discussed, the jury of executive opinion. Like in the jury of executive opinion, here too, there is a panel of experts who are recruited, very selectively and very carefully by the organization in order to make up that panel. And again, the job of sales forecasting is really left to these people who have got enough wisdom and expertise and experience in this area, and their judgment is relied on by the firm. There is one small difference, however, between the Delphi technique and the jury of executive opinion. In the Delphi technique, there is a coordinator who is made responsible to do a lot of coordination activities between all the panel members on the Delphi panel. Okay, like there's a questionnaire which is developed by the coordinator, which is circulated among all the members on the panel. And looking at the questionnaire, all these experts are supposed to fill up that questionnaire, and the questionnaire will bring out issues concerning the forecasting of the firm. And whatever comes out from the questionnaire, because each of the questionnaires are being filled up separately by the different members of the panel, whatever comes out from the first round of the questionnaire circulation is again made available, is collated and made available to the experts across the panel so that everybody comes to know what the others' opinions are. So there is a free exchange of opinion, not among the panel members directly, but through the mode of a questionnaire, which is circulated and recirculated. Again, at the end of the second round of forecasting, what comes out, the consensus that emerges is circulated among all the members, and this goes on maybe for a few rounds until the differences are ironed out between the divergent opinions which is coming out from the different members on the Delphi panel. The advantages of a Delphi technique are much the same as are applicable to the jury of executive opinion. Here again, you have got a pool of experts who have got enough resources at their disposal, who have got enough experience and wisdom and you are again relying on their understanding of the market, who are considered to be the best people for the job. That's one. And because you are allowing them to have an exchange of views with the help of the questionnaire, they are able to look at others' points of view and rectify their opinion, which is another advantage over the jury of executive opinion. And again, it's a fairly quick method. It does not take too much of time, although it does take more time than the jury of executive opinion, because there are a few rounds of questionnaires being circulated which is involved here. Therefore, it takes a little more time than the jury of executive opinion. But however, it does not take too much of time. It enables you to do a forecast where there is no background database for the firm to engage in a factual forecasting as we would prefer. You are relying on the experts' opinions and their projected views. These are the advantages, and the weaknesses are again much the same, wherein your forecast is only going to be as good as the forecast made by these experts. There is always the outside chance that the forecast will be quite haywire, and it's not going to be quite realistic. People have found out through their experiences that engaging methods like the Delphi technique or jury of executive opinion does not really yield a very realistic forecast, because people, after all, when they are looking far into the future, how much can you really rely on their judgment to be precise? There are going to be a lot of cases where the forecast will really be quite wayward from what it really needs to be.
And so is this exercise is also economical so much?
It is economical because it does not take much time. It can be worked out quickly, and that is what you need. One of the most important requirements for the firm is to work out a forecast quickly, and it satisfies that requirement. It's quite economical in that sense as well.
But here the panel members are paid, or they are honorary members?
Not necessarily. You might. That is really left to the firm whether to give some kind of a fee to the experts or have the services voluntarily. That is really left to the firm and to the experts who engage in that kind of an agreement. That's not the important question. What is important is that you are engaging the best people again for doing the job of forecasting, which is a vital function for the firm. And if you really have to part with some amount of fees for that, I think that's quite well worth it. So that is really the method, and both of these that we talked about are very subjective methods, where you are trying to project far into the future without having any other database to go by. So these are risky propositions, but then because there are no databases and you have to take a certain amount of risk, you have to engage in such sales forecasting methods. The next method that we take up is a very different method, however a very people-oriented method, what is known as a poll of sales force opinion. The third method, this poll of sales force opinion. Now, as the name perhaps suggests to you that herein the sales force is involved. Unlike in the previous two methods, the sales force has to do a job of sales forecasting in this method. Now, do you think that is a good thing to do, or is it a bad thing to do? What is your opinion on this?
It is a very good thing, because they are the people who directly interact with the customers in the market, and they come to know about their preferences, and accordingly they can take the feedback and give it to the experts.
Absolutely. That is a very good point to make. The sales force should, according to many people, be involved in the job of forecasting, because they are the people who are the frontliners. They are into the marketplace. They are facing the realities in the market every day. They know the customers the best because they are the ones who are interacting with them on a regular basis. So they, more than anyone else, should know the ground realities.
Yeah, but in the Delphi technique,
Yeah.
the panel members were not of the sales force.
No, they are senior people, very senior people, in fact, very senior executives, and therefore they are not in direct touch with the ground realities maybe. Okay, they have an apex view of things, which is why they are experts, but then they do not have a pulse of the market as a salesperson do, because they are really into the marketplace, and these people are far removed from that. They are looking at things from a very high point level, high ground, and they are really not in very close touch with the market realities, which the salespeople are. That is one of the major advantages of the sales force opinion method.
But sir, don't you think that from those salespersons you can have a very micro point of view, not a very macro point of view?
That's again a very important point to make. This is in fact one of the limitations of the sales force opinion method, because when you engage salespeople in the sales forecasting job, you have to remember that they are working in their respective territories. They are looking at things from their narrow point of view. What is happening in my territory? What is happening among my customers? What is the level of competition in my territory? That is what he's looking at, and he's trying to draw an inference from that and trying to make a forecast, which you might say that is a very narrow point of view, which is the reality. The salesperson does not have the vision or the understanding of the entire market. So he looks at things from his own narrow perspective and therefore gives the judgment from that point of view. Therefore, what might happen is, there are two things that can happen. One is the salesperson might forecast very optimistically. Suppose things are looking up in his market, therefore he makes a very optimistic forecast because he thinks that things are going to remain that way into the future, which may not be reality. Yes. The other thing is, they may be bogged down, or they might come out with a very pessimistic kind of forecast because of what is happening in their territory right now. If the chips are down in that territory currently, then the sales forecast from that salesperson will tend to be very, very conservative. And actually, it might need not be so conservative. Even things might really look up in the future, but then they are more carried away by what is happening right now. The recency effect, tends to predominate in their sales forecasting because they are guided by what is happening now and what has happened in the immediate past. That is what they are guided by. They have a little understanding what the future holds, and therefore how much faith you can put on the forecast made by salespeople is also a debatable question. However, one thing that is beyond debate is the fact that if salespeople are engaged in the job of sales forecasting, they obviously will take more responsibility for the sales forecasts which they make. They are the people who have to achieve it. So why don't you let them set their own goals, is the argument behind such a method. If I were to set my own goals, then I would take prime responsibility for achieving those targets. Isn't it so? Yes, so this is one of the major strong points of the Salesforce opinion method. Because you are engaging people to do their own sales forecasting, they take more responsibility for the achievement of those targets. Targets have no meaning otherwise. If people do not take responsibility for achieving those targets, then those targets have no meaning. And this method, among the different methods, ensures that a salesperson takes more responsibility for achieving the targets. Now, when we are talking about sales forecasting by the Salesforce opinion, another major advantage that accrues from this is that because salespeople are handling different kinds of products, they're handling different categories of customers, therefore they can break down the sales forecast into the different product lines in terms of the numbers or in terms of the periods over which what would be sold. So the sales forecast does not remain one single figure. It can be broken down into different factors like how much of which product line or how much of what brand will be sold, how much of what size of the product will be sold, and in what period of time such sales will take effect. So you really can break down the sales forecast into its component parts and have a micro vision of each of these components, and that is a positive that comes out from this method. If you are expecting the senior people to do a sales forecasting, then they will not be able to go into such micro details of the product level, the customer level, or the time units that require to be specified. They would take an overarching view of the whole thing. And this will not happen in this case. And it is always an advantage to have a sales forecast broken down into its various components. Then you can monitor them better, you can control them better.
Is the bridge made up by these Salesforce who actually have a micro view, whereas the experts, they have a macro view, and naturally they try to bring in some kind of equilibrium, or rather a bridge between the two.
That is right. When I started off, I said that most companies adopt more than one approach to sales forecasting. When I say that a company would adopt a Salesforce opinion approach, it does not necessarily mean that it will not take the opinion of executives, or it may not engage in a Delphi technique. It might really be a combination of these two or some other method by which you tend to arrive at some kind of a consensus. If you find that there's a lot of disparity between what the executives are forecasting and what the Salesforce cumulatively is forecasting, then there is reason for worry. Can we bridge that gap, and can we take some kind of a middle path where I believe that the sales force is wrong to a certain extent and the experts are also not fully correct to the full extent, and we can really make a compromise and strike one kind of a balance. She's right in saying this. You can always look at a balanced figure and looking at it from both the points of view, the expert's viewpoint as well as the salespeople's point of view. So that is one of the major advantages of a Salesforce opinion method. And we have mentioned other benefits, like it can be broken down into its component parts. It is a highly people-oriented activity, therefore people take more responsibility, and people become experts in the job of forecasting gradually as they move along in the organization. As they become more and more senior, everybody has had hands-on experience of doing sales forecasting, which is a very, very healthy trend, because once you become senior, then you need to understand forecasting yourself, and if you have been doing it all along, right from the junior level up to the senior level, then you have an exposure to the job of forecasting yourself, which is, I think, a very healthy trend for the organization. So that is where we will take, conclude our discussions on the sales forecasting methods, and there are more on these areas, and we come back for further discussions on other methods of sales forecasting. Okay, thank you.